It is now with the greatest of pleasure and honor that I get to introduce our afternoon keynote speaker. Chef David Burke, a partner in Drifthouse by David Burke Bar and Grill in Seabright, New Jersey, is one of the leading pioneers in American cooking today. A graduate of the Culinary Institute of America, Burke's career is marked by creativity, critical acclaim, and the introduction of revolutionary products and cooking techniques. He is the winner of France's coveted Milors Ouvriers de France Diplômé d'Honneur. That was pretty good for someone who just speaks toast and fries in French. And he's the only American ever to achieve this honor. And he has also won the Nippon Award for Excellence from the government of Japan for overall skill and technique. He has appeared on several TV shows, including Bravo's Top Chef Masters, and has received the U.S. patent for his pink Himalayan salt dry-aged technique for steaks. Chef Burke also was named Restaurateur of the Year 2012 by the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association. In September of 2016, David Burke opened BLT Prime by David Burke in the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., Tavern 62 by David Burke, a modern American tavern, in October of 2016 in New York City's Upper East Side, and recently opened Drifthouse by David Burke Bar and Grill in March of 2018, where his brother Robert is the executive chef. He is a New Jersey native as well. I personally recently dined there with my family celebrating my wife's birthday, and all I can say is that it easily was the best meal and dining experience I've had in New Jersey in my 20-plus years living here. I implore each of you to go. Chef David Burke.
Hi. Look at this. I had to write a speech about how great I was. So, no, they're all blank. Anyway, good afternoon. And I'm happy to be here. I love New Jersey. I like the food in New Jersey. I like the people in New Jersey. Depends on what county, but yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Monmouth County, and I live in Fort Lee down in Bergen. So I've been up there since '01. And you know what? I thought I'd talk about learning and adapting to what happens in the restaurant business and what happens as a chef, and changing, and at least what one person did, and this is what I did. And you know, when I started cooking in 1976, being a chef was not a profession. It was not considered a profession. It just wasn't recognized until 1977. It was considered a service job. So when I told my dad and my mother, mostly my dad, I wanted to be a chef, it was pretty shocking to him to hear that, because most people that left the city came to Jersey, get their first house, and have better things for their kids. So he looked at cooking as something that wasn't making a big enough impact, etc. So he tried to convince me not to do it, which failed, obviously. But I started out as a dishwasher, like many chefs do. Worked hard, didn't care about money. I think I made $3 an hour, $2.75, whatever it was. To think that I only made $2.75 now, and the minimum wages, I don't know what it's in Jersey, hasn't gone up much. It's a problem. You know, I dishwashed. I worked at a place called Lakeside Manor. I couldn't learn enough quick enough because I had a burning desire to know everything quickly. And there was a passion. Didn't know where it came from. I'm not from a food family. There was not an opportunity in my eye to be a celebrity chef, to be a restaurateur, to be anything but the quarterback in my kitchen. I wanted to be the guy that I was working for. That's all I wanted. You know, there's the movie Apocalypse Now. When you see the beginning of it, the guy's like, all I want to be is a saucier. You ever see that entrance? I think it might be Charlie Sheen. I don't know if it's him, but it was, you know, because I wanted to be a saucier. That was a great name. You know, that was a great thing to be. And I say that because people are in such a rush to be the top dog now, and they want to skip all the hard work. And that affects the outcome of what we see on a plate sometimes. So, you know, I had taken, again, it happened quickly, but I worked my way. I was at the Navicine Country Club in high school working as a full-time cook as a senior in high school because I didn't go. So I was making a professional wage. And I really got juiced and hooked because the more I learned, the more I thought I had to know. And I went to CIA, moved to Dallas, got a little bit out of New Jersey, and worked for probably the best restaurant in the country at the time at the Pyramid Room in the Fairmont Hotel. Very French. I had spent a little time at Fromagerie before that. That's me calling. You can, if you're going to have your cell phones on, please tweet about this. No, cheating's all right. So I went to school. I had an advantage when I went to school because I knew how to cook. And I say that meaning I knew how to cook on a line. I knew how to play the drums of a kitchen. And it's very difficult to find, and I'm sure other chefs in the audience would know, to find cooks that can actually cook. And it's a shortage right now of getting cooks, even from the CIA, which I like. My son went to Johnson & Wales, that come out of school and can cook because they don't know the rhythm, they don't understand the timing, the importance of tasting, the fundamentals of being a good cook are somewhat washed away by becoming a great chef quickly because that is here now. People know they can get it. When 4 decades ago or 3 decades ago, you didn't realize you could get there that quickly, so you didn't skip that part. So I went to school, was a good student. As good as I could be. I was a good student because I was good at the things I wanted to be good at. That was plating, cooking, making the fancy stuff. I didn't want to be good at sanitation, nutrition, ice carving, wine tasting, although I got pretty good at wine tasting eventually. But I didn't want to. I wanted to be good at cooking, so I focused all my energy on making fancy food. Moved to Norway, worked in the richest man's house as a chef, and did whatever I wanted. I didn't learn a lot in Norway, but I learned before I went to school from the chef at Navicine Country Club how to be responsible for my time and how to manage my time, or I'd get fired. So I had a list of things I had to get done in a day. I went to Norway. I was the only chef in a very big mansion with no assistants. I did breakfast, lunch, and dinner 30 days in a row. I had to be responsible for every product. It's like wrestling. I wrestled. When you wrestle, you're responsible for the match. There's no one to blame it on. You can't get off the mat and say, it's the other guy's fault. You lost. If you're a chef in a home, or private chef, or you're a chef in your kitchen, you're responsible. Unfortunately, when you have 20, 30 people working for you, there's more mistakes can happen that you don't see. But being an independent chef taught me how to be responsible for every peanut, everything seasoned, every dessert, everything that came out of the kitchen, I had to see. So it taught me to look for everything because even though my name was on the door, it was in a home, everything, there was only one person to blame, and that was me. And that was a lesson that I learned, and I don't forget that because I see everything and I try to look at everything. I try to teach people that too. I mean, how can you be standing next to someone who's making the same dish and not notice if it's wrong? Happens all the time. Happens too often. I left the Norwegian job and went through Europe for about 6 weeks traveling. Very little money. Most of my money was very little money I made anyway. But I learned that I could be in France and work without speaking French. I learned that it wasn't that difficult to get there. So I came back to New York, worked for a guy named Wally Malouf at a very French restaurant called La Crémaillère up in Banksville, New York. And I went in there, and I was a pretty good cook. He made me, I was a cook, became sous chef, worked side by side with a master chef for 3 years. So, and again, he was there, and I was here, and there was one more cook. And there was a pastry chef. All three of them right now are at the Culinary Institute of America teaching. Wally and the pastry chef and that other cook. So they went on to pretty good things. And I think being a teacher is a wonderful thing. And I think teaching people, and I'll get to that in a little while, is a wonderful thing to do when you learn the right way. And I plan on doing that eventually. So I got to work with Wally. He came from a place called Le Côte Basque, and Le Côte Basque in New York in the day was the best restaurant with Lutèce and probably the Four Seasons and a few others at the time. But probably the most creative with the sauce paintings and the heavy sauces and the pastry tops and taking classic food to a new level. Now, classic food, back in France, especially French cuisine and maybe Chinese cuisine, doesn't change. It didn't change for decades and years. It didn't change until the 80s. Everybody had the same menu with the same thing, and they weren't allowed to think outside the box. Here's how you make onion soup. Here's how you make snails. Here's how you make pheasant under glass. Here's how you make a Grand Marnier souffle. And that was it. Some people had better napkins. Some people had a better wine list. But the food was basically the same, and that's how they followed it. You weren't supposed to think out. You weren't supposed to break the rules. It was classic, and you had to know the classics, and you got graded on that. In comes the American cooking and the mentality of some young American chefs. In the 80s, there's a book out that's called Chefs, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. It came out about 2 months ago. It talks about the creation of the new modern American kitchens. And the River Cafe happens to be on that for a whole chapter. I'm innocent. So I left Waldy after 3 years, and I learned everything Waldy by the book French, how to make cream sauces and beurre blanc, all that heavy stuff. And I worked for Daniel Blue for a short period, very, very French, but he was doing modern French food. He was breaking the rules. So Waldy taught me camaraderie in the kitchen, hard work. I mean, really hard work, 6 days a week. And that was it. But that was your dedication. That's what you did. There wasn't other things to do, really. That was what you did, and I wanted to be that guy. Went to Daniel Blue, worked in a very, very intense environment at the Hotel Plaza Athénée with all French guys. I could speak French in the kitchen, so I survived. And I say survived because it was very hostile, but educational and aggressive. And a little bit dog-eat-dog, with stealing stuff. I worked during the day, and I got a call from the River Cafe. Charlie Palmer called me up to be a sous chef, and I was like, I'm out of here. So I went to the River. The River Cafe changed my life because there were no rules. And I'm a guy that doesn't like rules. I never liked rules. I don't like rules. I'm the what-if guy. I hate rules. That's why I work in restaurants. And there's a lot of, it's funny, but a lot of people that do work in restaurants love restaurants because they don't like rules. They don't want to do the same thing. They don't want to be work at 9 a.m. They don't want to do this. They want to express their personalities, their creativity. And they like the camaraderie. They like the hard work. They like the team effort. I certainly did. I love the team effort. I learned that when I was a dishwasher. It was a team. Mostly men back then. But it didn't matter. As women come in, there's more women now in the CIA than there are men, which is, I think, a great thing. But I'm talking in the 70s, there weren't. So I get to River Cafe, and I'm the sous chef. I'm a young man, and it's a hostile environment. But I can relate to them because they're guys from Jersey, Brooklyn, and Queens, and everything. I can curse just like them, and I'm a better cook. And I had to be a better cook because they judged me, and they were going to make sure that I was. They got passed over for the job. Why was this guy getting a job? Anyway, went quickly. Worked for Charlie for 2 years at the River Cafe. Created menus with him. Everything I learned from Charlie how to run a restaurant. Buzzy O'Keefe, the owner, made us buy the best stuff. We couldn't buy cheap stuff. The money was no object. He bought the best china before anyone bought the best china. We had to hand wash the best china. I didn't have to beg him for it. He's like, I want this. I want you to put your food on this. And, so there was a blessing. I mean, how many owners are like that? Right? How many owners are like, chef's like, I need a new stove. I can't. I got one burner. This guy's like, buy whatever you need, for the most part. And Charlie was a great teacher. Charlie and Waldy worked together, so now I fit right in because I knew everything. Waldy taught Charlie as well. So him and I together in the kitchen was a match made in culinary heaven. We're very good friends. He's a very successful, talented chef, different style than mine. I left the River Cafe, and I was going to go study pastry. I was offered the chef job at the River Cafe. When Charlie left to open Oriole, I was going to be a sous chef. Loved it. Great job. I was 26. We're going to go to Manhattan. We were always the Brooklyn guys. We never got press. There was no publicist at the River Cafe. John George got all the press. All our ideas, he got it. Didn't matter because our sous chefs kept switching places. And Buzzy offered me the chef job, which I would have asked for. I didn't think I was ready. I wasn't old enough or wasn't experienced. You know, Larry Ford Jones was there and this and that. So what I learned from Buzzy was, he told me, he goes, you can do this because all the waiters say you can. And I hated waiters. Back then I did. But the waiters were telling Buzzy and the management that this place ran better when I ran it. No disrespect for Charlie. Charlie was building his other place at the time. But the food could come out on time, there was mutual respect, and there was a great energy to do things perfectly all the time. Maybe it wasn't perfectly all the time, but the effort was there. So I learned that communication with the front was very key. The respect for the front of the house, because I wouldn't have got the job if they said he's a tyrant. And I was pretty tough. So I took that and I said, Buzzy, I'd love to take the job. I don't think I'm ready. I don't know pastry. He goes, we'll send you to pastry school. I'm like, I love this guy. Where's this guy from? So I went to France. I studied pastry for 6 months. He paid for it. Lived on a barge. Went to the best schools. Worked in the best pastry shops. Came back. Took over the River Cafe in 1980, late 87. My son was born in November. I took over in December. And sometime in the middle of 88, we got nominated to represent the United States in the Culinary Olympics International in Japan and France. And luckily we won. We won those two prestigious awards that were mentioned earlier. And that started to skyrocket. David Burke and the River Cafe. And people came from all over to eat. Other chefs, people came in from different countries to work for free and to learn. And now I was in a position of teaching. So I had to teach them what I knew. But most of what I knew wasn't developed yet. So I just had an experimental kitchen. But I learned as I went. But I had the foundation of great classic cooking. I had the creativity. I had the desire. And I had no fear. I had no fear of failure. I had no fear of critics. I was respectful of the power of a critic, but I always thought I knew where my dishes came from mentally, because I understood the geography of food, why mint goes with lamb, why do we put a pickle on a hamburger, why do they put a lemon on a piece of fish, why does duck get oranges and pork gets applesauce. Does anybody know why we put lemon with fish? Does anybody know? I don't know either. I know why there's a pickle on a hamburger. Digestive aid. Yes. You know why there's apple and fruit with fatty dishes, digestive aids. There's geographic reasons for things, because most of these recipes are done before transportation or refrigeration. Why are we eating well-done steaks, or at least certain people eat well-done steaks? My father, one of them, he had no icebox. So when your meat's sitting on a windowsill with bugs on it, you're going to cook it well. Old habits are hard to die. If you had food poisoning, you don't want it again. So there's reasons for things. I was always the what-if guy. Why not? Or how come? Always curious. Imagine if Berkey was my nickname when we were smoking pot in high school. Because I'd be imagine if. So, that maybe that imagination is a blessing. I like it. I get creative. But I need to have solid reasons why. I need to know the answer. There's something here I want to read to you. It's called What If. This is a poem that I found on a wall last year of an abandoned building. It's called What If. It says, what if? It's not a question, it's the answer. In fact, the very response has served as a catalyst for every advance in the history of civilization, because it kickstarts our imagination and awakens our uniquely human primal urge to solve stuff, to look impossible square in the eye and say, want to bet. But even beyond their astonishing power, these 6 letters hold infinite allure for a special breed who daily converge as the place to wage war against what is, and to divide the beige-colored tyranny of good enough, but unleash a 2-word arsenal possessed of the might to change the world, and that is what if. So in the culinary world and the restaurant world, you ask yourself, what if? what if I could do this? Not, this is how you do this, right? It's what if, how come? And if you don't have the attitude of change in the day and age of what we're going through, you're going to not succeed. That means looking at minimum wage, square in the eye, figuring out how to get two people to wear two hats or one person to do this. And I have pastry chefs I paid $80,000 20 years ago. They make less money today because they can't do anything else, and they don't want to do anything else. The salaries in New York City are going down for chefs with the minimum wage going up because we need the army of people to put it out. But I don't need that guy at 130, 120, 110, 100 because I'd rather get two sous chefs, or I need a chef that can do pastry as well. So that's what's looking as in New York. New Jersey, we have a little time. Minimum wage has not creeped in so much. So those are the things we have to look at in terms of how to run a business. I mean, I don't serve lunch in New York City anymore. I can't afford it. No one's going to pay $40, $50 for lunch unless you're doing 200 people. It's not working. Between rents, minimum wages, that's New York. New Jersey, I'm doing projects in New Jersey. I got a great project in Seabright. Bill here. And down in Seabright. Great piece of property on the water. And I got to be honest with you, we've been open, and thank you, Bill, at the Drifthouse has been open since March 1st. Business has been great. I mean, I have roots down there. My brother's a chef. Bill's the owner. And we're seeing an incredible amount of people that are coming in willing to spend money, almost New York City dollars, because there's a nice variety on the menu, and they're looking for good quality stuff. We're selling the expensive stuff because it's unique and authentic and real. It's the best beef you can buy, and they know it when they taste it. So but there also has to be the high-low menu. It can't all be, and it's not. And we're not trying to. There's no amuse. We're not trying to be fancy. It's just a good American restaurant. So I'm proud of that one, and proud of the success. And my brother's been there. My brother worked for me for 30 years. Fired him, 8 times. I mean, I fired him more than I said happy birthday. But he's doing great. He's finally into it, right? A late bloomer. He's and I'm proud of him. He's doing good. He's got a better resume than me because he worked for Michael Mina too. But he fought it for so long. He fought it, and then his confidence kicked in. And then he said, you know what? I know this. I can do it. So somehow a switch went off. And that happens with a lot of guys. But on the opposite side, some people want to go out and get it right away. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was a chef at 26, so it's hard for me to say there's an age where you got to break out and be the chef. I was interviewing with them. So after I left River Cafe, which was very successful for me, 3 stars, all this, De Niro and Drew wanted to do a restaurant with me. Never happened. This guy, Alan Stillman, calls me. Alan Stillman is the founder of TGI Fridays and Smith & Wollensky. Probably one of the greatest marketing guys in the restaurant business. I learned marketing from him. He took ads, full-page ads in the New York Times with steak knives saying, horrifying vegetarians for centuries, things like that. And people, he paid $40,000. And he says, I don't care. They're going to come. You can't tell if advertising works. And I said to him, I don't want to advertise Park Avenue Cafe because it makes me look like we're going out of business. He goes, you think Tiffany's is going out of business? You think Mercedes-Benz is going out of business? They advertise. And I was like, right, what if a chef advertised? Look at it now. Look, that was 92. People were afraid to advertise. You know how restaurateurs like Sirio and the other old-timers used to tell if a guy was busy? Because they all lied to each other. They go around and see how much garbage bags they had outside. They'd know how many covers they did. And that was this old way of thinking, like, if you advertise, you're going out of business. It was like the Groupon thing now. Oh, you're a Groupon. That can't be good. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But if you don't let people know you're there, they're not coming. The word of mouth is not good enough anymore. There's just too much competition. So I went and worked for Alan Stillman. Alan Stillman, I learned how to get things done with Alan Stillman. I'll tell you why. I went to his office. I didn't know him. He says, I hear Tim Zagat said you're the best chef in New York right now, and you're looking for a partnership. I said, I'm looking for a partnership. I don't know if I agree with Tim Zagat, but I'll take it. And he goes, I got a property. It was on 63rd and Park. Now, Charlie Palmer just opened Oriole 61st and Park. Now I'd be competing with my mentor, which every competitive chef loves. I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll do it for free. So I said to him, I'm going to Arizona. I need to think about it. I got a week trip. He goes, I need an answer in 2 days. I said, I can't do it in 2 days. He says, he calls Mark Hamway, CFO. He goes, hey, Mark, how long does it take to get a corporate card from Mr. Burke? He says 4 hours. I come back in 4 hours. He's got a corporate card with my name on it that says Smith & Wollensky on it. And I'm like, this guy knows this guy wants to hire me. But I'm like flattered. That's how you get things done. He got it done. I took the job. Not that day, but I took it 3 days later. He said, spend as much money as you want, have a good time, because when you come back, you're going to work hard. I hadn't heard those words in about 90 days, jerking around with other people that had these great deals that couldn't put the deal together. So I was like, you know what? I feel comfortable with this guy. He's no bullshit. We made a deal. Opened Park Avenue Cafe. And then we started to negotiate my salary. He goes, that's a lot of money for a guy your age. I said, what? I said, I got 20 years experience. He goes, you're only 30. I said, yeah, but I work doubles all my life. And it's true. I mean, if I was a pilot, I would have been retired. So he looks at me and he goes, that's profound, man. He goes, but I can't argue with that. I said, at least I got 15 years experience because I work 60, 70 hours a week. You're managed, some other people work 40. They don't have the same experience. And he goes, all right, I'll meet you halfway. We made a deal. The art of the deal, how to negotiate a good deal. That's what I learned from him. Advertising, marketing, making a deal, and doing what you say you're going to do. That's what he did. He's a great guy, great marketing guy. Created Smith & Wollensky, opened Park Ave Cafe, great success. It was kind of like Union Square Cafe on the Upper East Side. We created signature dish called the Sword Chop. I signed a deal that day with Alan Stillman, the king of the meat houses in New York, and I went to the fish market and I had this idea in my head, like a Post-it. Many Post-its are in my head at all times. And I went there and I bought a swordfish neck and I cut it up and made a swordfish chop. And that was this great, successful, creative cut, which many food critics, including New York Times, thought was a hoax, and it wasn't. But we decided to number it with the number of the Tour d'Argent because I had eaten there in Paris, and without traveling, you can't learn culture. So you need to travel. A chef needs to travel. He needs to eat. He needs to see why a guy walks home with a baguette in Paris. He needs to see why they make soup in the afternoon, or figure it out for himself. But without travel, you can't connect the dots. If you can't connect the dots, you can't create. Like an architect, you need to understand how to build a foundation before you put a high-rise above it. Because there's building inspectors and there's food critics, and they work similar. And if your building collapses, your restaurant collapses. So you need to take your time and study. And you got to do it on your own time. No one's going to tell you why the pickle's on the hamburger, right? No one's going to tell you why. Let's go back to the lemon. Why is there lemon on fish? Someone give me a guess. Flavor? Okay, that's a good guess.
Acidified cooking in the broth?
Nope, because it's served with fried fish too. Why is that lemon on that plate? The odor? Good point, probably closest one. Okay, because lemons don't go with fish. At least they don't in Maine, because in Maine they have no lemons. Right, so why would you put a lemon on a fish in Maine if you don't have a lemon? Right? So who started the lemon on the fish? The Caribbean. Somebody did, ceviche. The Greeks, okay? The Greeks are blamed for that extra 20 cents on every fish. Right? Your fault. That's like the lime in the Dos Equis. But that has a reason for that. You know why? You know why the lemon's on the cappuccino? That little rind, they don't do it anymore, do they? You know why they put that on there? Because in Italy, before plumbing, they wash the cups in dirty water. In order to get the lipstick off, you put that little lemon on there. That's nothing for flavor. That coffee guy would be jumping through the air if he found out that coffee he spent all day roasting was, you put a lemon in. But, you know, it bugs me not to know why. I don't know why. It's pretty. I think it's pretty. The best thing is it adds color to the thing. Parsley on fish makes your breath. Parsley is what they put in clarets. It's delicious if you want. It doesn't go with wine. So we don't know. We're never going to know. Some guy in an island caught a fish, lemon hit him in the head, and he put them together. I don't know. You know? And there was a picture in Bon Appetit's first issue. Who knows? Well, we're never going to know that one. But we can know some of them. I can know why there's mint with lamb. I know why. Mint grows where the lamb grazes. Right? Why is mint jelly? I'll give you a good one. Steak tartare. made from the best tender piece of meat, filet mignon. What do we got in it? Who knows what's in steak tartare? Capers, strong, right? Onion, strong. Mustard, strong. Worcestershire, strong. What else? So how the hell do you taste the meat? They didn't want to taste the meat because it was made with horse. Before refrigeration. I mean, horse now's got to be pretty bad, but horse without refrigeration. It's like, yeah, that's how these things start. So if you're going to make a modern-day tartare, let's taste the meat, especially if it's dry-aged or Kobe beef or this and that. So you need to understand and break these. Why that recipe was written 150 years ago. We can change it. We're allowed. We can put a little mustard oil in it instead of mustard, so it's a little clear and you can see the meat. You don't hide the ingredients. So that's the process and the technique in which I use to teach myself how to make better food. One of them. There's probably 20. I don't know where they all come from. I never listed them, but that's one way. It's circulating ideas is another. Getting people involved that you've taught. Rehiring people you fired, perfect example. Well, I rehired, but my right-hand man is the guy I fired. Because when I was in the kitchen, in the trenches, doing 300 covers a night, 5-course meals, shit happens. And you fire people because it wasn't perfect. It could be nobody's fault at all. Just the way it is. 5 years later, they matured, or I matured, somebody matured, and we're back together working. And because once somebody knows all my dishes, or at least my style and way of thinking, I can't replace that with a new guy. I don't have the time to do that anymore. So keeping your employees is super valuable. You got to pay them a little extra. Keep them happy. Give them a day off. Give them a pat on. I can't pat them anywhere anymore. But give them an electronic pat on the ass. All right? Tweet to them. Because, hey, I'm staying away from that one. I dodged a bullet on all of that, thank goodness. And that's a whole other thing. But the restaurant, I'll say one thing about that. The restaurant industry in the 70s, 80s, when it was Yahoo and fun, is over. Harder to make money. No time for shift drinks and after hours and this and that. You need to be on point every day, counting food weekly, labor weekly, daily, et cetera, in order to be ahead of it. Because you're going to time at the end of the month to pull your pants up and say, oh, what happened? You need to fix it in real time. Because, the margins, I imagine the margins in the 70s and the 80s in New York, 20%, 25%. In some restaurants, I had David Burke and Donatella, killed it, 17%. But we know, no one had an app to look at the wine prices. No one had but we put out great food, quick, and we had a hot spot. And the rent was 2%, because we took a space that needed a lot of love. And when you have a brand name chef or a brand name person, it's a little easier to take a B location than an A location and not pay so much rent. And the competition wasn't as stiff. PR was great. And the creativity and the modernization of what American cuisine now is. Now, all that food today, if I brought that down to Drifthouse, it wouldn't. We did that. We brought it to Fromagerie, that same menu. And it did really well. But it's too much work now. I'd need 6 extra guys in the kitchen. The River Cafe, I used to have people working for free. I'd have a great sauce cook, broiler cook, and I'd say there'd be another guy on the station when he came to work, and he's like, Chef, who's that? I said, that's your replacement when you quit. He's going to work for free until you quit or you're fired. That's how easy it was. The guy said, I just want to work for free and learn. No one does that now. Maybe they can't afford it, but they couldn't afford it then. They couldn't afford not to do it if they really wanted it. I did it. I went to France, worked for free. Buzzy paid for the pastry part, but prior to that, I did it. I saved money and went. I don't see a lot of people don't live to work. Some chefs do, some chefs don't. And I don't recommend it, but some people want something bad enough, they go out and get it, and then they'll rest later. So we did the Park Ave Cafe. I opened Maloney Porcelli, which is a steakhouse. He asked me to open a steakhouse with him. I had no interest in opening a steakhouse. Fancy chefs like me, we didn't open steakhouse. We didn't even eat in steakhouses. That was like below us to have a great piece of meat. So I started doing research. And one day I was sitting, we opened Maloney Porcelli, we created the pork shank and a couple other great dishes. Pork shank, back to travel. I was in Munich representing the venison board. So stupid. They hired an American kid to cook venison in Munich for a bunch of German guys that know how to cook venison. That was me. So I had to go there anyway and do it. And I went to a Hofbrau house and had this big hunk of pork. Loved it, took it back, put it in front of the crew, said, I want to put this dish on. Made it like duck confit. So I used the French technique to do a German dish, and it came out to be fantastic. And I had to fight the board of advisors for Smith & Wollensky to put it on the menu. I had to fight with them because they said pork's never going to sell in New York. I said, well, what if it does? Here it is, what if? What if it does? Why not? It sells in Germany. People line up for it. So why wouldn't it sell here? I want to put it with firecracker applesauce. Jalapenos were hot. This is 1996. We put it on the menu. They said, put it on the menu. He's upset. I overhear him. I mean, I must be red in the face, probably blowing smoke, F-bombs and all this because this was the dish. I believed in it. I had to fight to put a dish on the menu. Think about that. It cost me $2 to buy it. We charged $19 at the time. It was voted best dish in America by USA Today. Best dish in America. You know what was underneath? Thomas Keller, John George, Daniel Boulud, everything with truffles and foie gras and all that. Boom, pork arrived. Not only that, what if worked? And I say that because you believe in what you believe in. I like it enough, and I'm an amateur expert now at this time, right, about what food is. I have an idea what sells. I write menus on a daily basis. I see people enjoying it in another country, travel, right? Understanding why it's good there, how to make it better for us. Add applesauce, pork and applesauce, a little bit familiarity on the plate. Prior to that, when I was at the River Cafe, I didn't tell you, I skipped this one. I got worst dish of the year. USA Today. I'm in Toronto with Drew Nearpont. We're looking for a chef for Tribeca Grill. USA Today, we open up. Worst dish in America, David Burke's noodle cake with squid and whatever. I'm like, Jesus. I'm so embarrassed. And he's walking up and down the airplane telling people, hey, do you see, because that's when they gave USA Today's everyone on the plane. He goes, hey, you see that? The guy's sitting right there. I'm in the back by the bathroom, and people are like, are you the guy with the worst dish of the year? I'm like, yeah. So all weekend long, I'm calling the restaurant. Is that dish so bad? Home and maitre d'. People complain. No. And this is before we printed our own menus. We had that big deal to reprint a menu. So I'm ready to reprint the menu. I'm devastated. I get home. I land Monday morning. I get home. I read New York Magazine. Best dish of the year. Same dish. Gail Green. Same dish. So I'm like. So I would never change a dish for a critic. I'll listen to reviews. I'll read between the lines. If there's something to learn, and there usually is, because most critics know what they're talking about, but sometimes there isn't. But if you think it's a good dish, and you know it's a good dish, you stick with it. I took the dish off the menu anyway, because it wasn't a heartbreaker. It was a sketchy dish. Some people loved it, some people liked it, but that's not good enough. Everybody has to somewhat like it. Otherwise, if you read a menu, and there's 5 items on there that most people don't like: quail, bone marrow, sea urchin, calf's liver, and squab. Then now they only have a half a menu to choose from. And those are the worst selling dishes in America. Oh, sweetbreads and kidneys. And I love them all, but I'm a chef. And it doesn't mean I order them when I go out. But I just took over a project in Saratoga, and that's what was on the menu. No hamburger. On a whole hotel, there wasn't a hamburger. Now, I don't know, but because they had a steakhouse next door that they owned, and they figured everyone that couldn't get a hamburger would luckily walk over there and get a steak and a hamburger at their steakhouse and be denied that. And just bad management. So I opened Maloney Porcelli, then I opened a bunch of steakhouses with Smith & Wollensky around the country. Learned a lot about meat, aging meat, and all that. I left the company to open David Burke and Donatella. This is 03. Big successful restaurant. And we had a lot of hit dishes, a lot of great crew. Between the River Cafe, Park Avenue, we put out a lot of sous chefs that became good chefs. And we realized we were teaching people a lot of stuff. And there was a style there. And fast forward, bought out Donatella, brought in a new partner. We opened Bloomingdale's Fast Casual. Fast Casual before any chef had Fast Casual. And it's a shame that it closed last week. I didn't have anything to do with it. My partner and I split up after we opened the best steakhouse in Chicago. by using dry aged meat, by taking the Himalayan salt. The Himalayan salt guys are somewhere back here. So one of my partners at the time found a salt block years ago and put it on my desk. And I put stuff on my desk and all over my house all the time to remind me to do something with it. And my girlfriend's like, please stop bringing stuff home. Stop bringing ostrich egg shells home and things like that. So I developed a patent on dry aging beef in salt, mostly by accident. 90% accident, 10% I'm a genius. So, but 90% accident, because I developed a flavor spray, diet product that was doing pretty well, and I wanted to develop dry aged flavor, like a natural flavor, artificial flavor. And when a guy came back to me, the scientist, I gave him dry aged meat to analyze. Came back, there was 345 flavor profiles in dry aged meat. He says he's never seen a product with that much flavor profile in it, ever. Because, you got fresh meat, fat, you got bone, you got age. Aging is a fermentation process done in a walker. And he said, what the strange thing is, the number one food profile, flavor profile is cardboard. He goes, you're serving cardboard. I said, well, people like it. It's best card. And I looked at him, I said, really? And we went back to the walk-in, and there's cardboard on the floor. And many steakhouses back then had sawdust and cardboard on the floor because it absorbed the fat dripping in the blood. And you weren't supposed to mop in a walk-in in a dry age room. So I'm like, I'll be damned. If cardboard permeated, so would salt. I had that salt brick came to life. Jumped off the desk, built a mini box on our way to building a steakhouse in Chicago. 1 box with salt, 1 box without. 30 days, exact same items. We cooked them without seasoning, and the salt box won. 18 people out of 20. Steve Hansen, the restaurateur from Be Our Guest, didn't believe it. He said, do it again. We did it another 30 days. 16 out of 20 believed it. So we built the salt aging box in Chicago. Then I went to Kentucky to buy a bull. This was the big, forget farm to table, this is Burke to bull. I went and bought a thoroughbred bull, $250,000. Yep. Oh, you got to see this guy. So, 250,000 pounds. No, 2,500 pounds. $250,000. And we're going to make sure no one ever gets mad cow in my restaurant. He is the thoroughbred. He inseminates the biggest heifers. We get the first pick of the lot. I get the best meat in America. Sounds a good idea. Over 20 years, that $250,000 will come back. So I go down to buy it. I go down to the farm. Got a nice black suit and a red shirt on. Now, you can't wear red in front of a bull, right? I'm in there with jacket off, 90 degrees. I look at the picture. Guy got a red shirt on, something wrong. And this guy with a tape measure around his neck has got every PhD, animal husbandry, genetic control. And he's like, come on over here now. Take a look at here, this bigger bull. I'm like, the bull's big, man. I don't want to get too close, So, and I'm going to buy a bull. A stud. And he starts measuring his neck, measuring his ears. I'm looking at it, it's like, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. It's not a gift. And he's going over here. Here's the thigh meat here. Then we get down to the undercarriage. And he's like, come on down here, take a look at here. Look at these testicles. I'm like, I'm good. He goes, no, come on down here. It's like, he goes, 35 centimeters. I said, 35, 32, 33. I'm good. But he's serious. This is how you buy a bull. I go in the back. I said, listen, we got a deal. I go in the back. I have to inseminate a bull. It's part of the thing of being a bull owner. I put a glove on, a thing on, get a needle, we inseminate one of the bulls. Not that it was on my bucket list. I'm glad, It's an interesting thing, but now I'm in the meat business. So now I learn all about beef, how they cut it, buy it. Somebody mentioned aorta. So who had an aorta operation recently? So I get an aorta. I'm in the slaughterhouse. I'm like, what's that? Looks like a squid tube. It's an aorta. What do? I bring an aorta home. I put it on my desk. I'm going to do something with an aorta one day, and I'm going to say why aorta. But I didn't do that yet. I did it in Australia. I made calamari rings out of beef aorta, and it was delicious, but it wasn't worth the effort. So we're in the beef business. The press can't get enough of it. Marketing. Back to Alan Stillman, right? Take a chance, put the money, do your thing, and get it. It'll play the right way. It does. We become the best steakhouse in Chicago for 10 years. 10 years. Closed last year. Closed this year. Well, maybe it closed in January. The lease ran out. The licensing, couldn't use my name anymore. My partner and I had split up anyway. Greatest restaurant in Chicago for beef closed. I'm hoping to go back there. But we opened one in Foxwood that's still opening, operated by my former partner. I'm going to open a steakhouse in the Garden City Hotel in June. And we're going to take that same idea of buying the best products and putting them out there and build a salt room as well. So again, learning, technique, connecting the dots, why not, what if. It's all the stuff you ask yourself, right? Take a chance. And we didn't spend $250,000 on a bull. But you believed me, didn't you? That's a little bullshit helps too. So we just told people we spent $250,000, but we spent quite a lot of money. But if we said we spent $10,000, it wouldn't be a big deal, would it? Right? If you buy a used motorcycle, nobody cares. You buy a Harley, that's cool. And that's how you have to think. Now, we spent a lot of money for bull. No bull, I'm serious. But you got to paint the picture, create the story. And the story means a lot these days. What we're just talking about, sustainability. I heard the panel for a brief minute. People want to know where the green beans came from. They want to know, what's the story? What's the story with this guy? What's the story with that restaurant? What can I talk about? Instagrammable. Now, I skipped over this. I worked at the River Cafe in the 80s. We did high food back then. I had to compete with the best view in America of a restaurant out the window so people would pay attention to my food. So it had to be beautiful. Otherwise, they came, they looked in each other's eyes. It was a romantic place. They're getting engaged, and they're getting the hell out of here, or they're looking out the window. So I'm like, okay, I'll teach you. I'm going to make the food this high you can't see a guest. But we made beautiful food. And we had the manpower, we had the desire, we had the knowledge, and we had the stage. We had a stage. And if you give the right group of guys and girls the stage to create, and not an unlimited budget, but a healthy budget, you'll get good results if you hire the right people. And give them an electronic pat every once in a while and pay them decently within, economics of everything. But if people are learning, at least I know, they work for less. Most people still, the good ones, if they're going to go home with some knowledge on a weekly basis, and you make them learn, or you teach them, and you're a good teacher, you can lower payroll. It doesn't work for everybody. But the work ethic has changed to a certain degree. No one can tell you why. And I don't want to sound like, I worked hard, and my father worked very hard. And I'm sure your fathers worked, mothers worked very hard. And you guys all work very hard. You're here today. You want to learn, right? And there's people that can't be bothered. But learning knowledge is a powerful thing. And I tell all my chefs that don't want them pastry chefs and GMs and bartenders. I say, you can't just be a bartender. You got to do something else now. You're going to have to help. You got to learn something else because these jobs are going to do this. And the strong survive. As long as we're all created equal and the laws are the same, the strong people, the people that are thinking outside the box to a certain degree are going to be ahead of the game. So, I opened a bunch of stuff. Anyway, 3 years ago, I had to split. 5 years ago, I split up with my former partner. That was the David Burke Group. 3 years ago, I started working with the BLT guys as a consultant. We opened Tavern 62, which was one of my former restaurants. I'll probably take back the Bloomingdale space. The Fromage got sold, and a couple of the hotel deals went by the wayside because the license deals without my name, they couldn't renew it. And I met Bill Stavola down at Seabright. We made a very good deal, and we put together a very good place very quickly. We had a good place. We just rebranded it and rechanged the menu, and hopefully we're off to some good things. And then we're going to do a steakhouse in Saratoga. There's a project I'm working on in Saratoga and in Garden City. So there's all kinds of opportunities, and they come every day. I was at the Meadowlands today, walking through. There's any dust on me. That project is incredibly huge. I don't know if anyone has seen it, the New American Dream. But I was there 15 years ago. I was there 10 years ago. I was there 2 years ago, and I took a look at something today. And I don't know what's going to happen. I couldn't make heads or tails of where I was. So there's projects, and there's deals to be made for people with talent that are trained and that are somewhat experts in their field. The middleman is, it's not good enough to just be good, in my opinion. And then with the changes in the in the media, The social media, my son's a social media guy. I never thought I'd be paying my son $3,000 a month. I swear to God. You know? I never thought, I'm happy for him. But I'm paying him. It's unbelievable. It sucks. Huh? I'm going to pick on him. But he does a great job. He's one of the better restaurant social media guys. I'm not plugging him, so I won't give you the name of his company. But if he charged me $2,500, I'd plug him. But he does a good job, and it's needed. So we don't pay as much for PR anymore. We pay social media and PR about the same. Because the traditional PR doesn't work as well. Because people are on their phones. I'm on my phone all the time, and I'm not a millennial. I mean, I want to be. Huh? I have several different. Who we use here? Karen Irvine in New Jersey. Bread and Butter in New York. Nancy Freeman in New York. And Richard Rubenstein in Saratoga, but based on New York. So we got several different ones. And social media is front of the house, FOH. And I can do some of it, but he doesn't let me post pictures. I take them, I send them to him. He sends back a text, clean your lens. So I clean my lens, I resend it. So, but he's doing a great job. I have another son that just got out of the restaurant business last week. He's 30. He didn't go to cooking school. He went to the University of Vermont. Good kid, smart, GM, excellent. And he said, I want to do this anymore. I don't want to babysit waiters. I don't want to get home at 1 in the morning. I make $95,000 a year in New York City. I can't even buy a car. I can't get a house. I'm going back to Lambertville, New Jersey, going to real estate school with his mother, who has a real estate business. I'm like, okay, cool. I have no problem with that. You know, he thought I'd be upset. I'm like, are you kidding? I think you're smart. I really do, because it's tough business, and if you don't have the passion, a little craziness. I mean, there's a reason all these chefs are a little crazy, and or restaurant people. There's something inside you that bucks tradition, or that gets bored easily, or doesn't like rules, right? And that we like that. We embrace the chaos of a kitchen. Who else would want to do this? Who would want to deal with the same thing day in and day out? And, you know, he was like, every day I got to come in and have a pre-shift and tell people to crumb the table. He's like, it's insanity. And they still don't. Or they call in sick, or they call out sick, or they, disappeared with a pipe somewhere. I don't know. It just happens. But those are the people that are in our business. Some great ones and some transient ones and colorful ones, and it makes the business fun. And it makes it creative and somewhat rewarding. But you got to be able to pick the weeds. So that's anyway. Where I get lost in that's why I don't write speeches. I just talk. So that's where we are now. I have a company called DB Global. We consult and license for restaurants, good ones, or someone we think we can help. And you know what? Because of the people I've worked with throughout my career, I've learned different things from every one of them. Some business, some creative, some food, some classic, some discipline. Yeah, I went to the CIA. I thought it was the best school in the world, and I still think it's the best school in the world for a different reason. But I was like, wow, look at all these guys in big hats, and it got me as a young kid to say, man, I want to be like that. I want to be a great chef. And that's what I wanted to be. That's all I ever set out to be, was a great chef. Other things came my way because the whole industry shifted. Think about it. 1977, this becomes a profession, and now they're called celebrities. It's crazy. I don't like the celebrity chef tag, adds a few bucks to your pocket, but I don't think it's the right tag. And I don't think real good chefs are celebrities. They just happen to be very good in their field, and respected for what they do. The celebrity thing is just a marketing tool. And I don't think any chef said, I'm a celebrity chef. Somebody marketed that and it stuck. Because most chefs don't want to be, they might want to be celebrated for their knowledge and their craft, but I don't like being called a celebrity chef. So, anyway, any questions about lemons, pickles, ketchup I can answer too? Yes.
Chef Burke, Maria Joyce, Protocol School of New Jersey. I'm a Red Bank girl.
Oh, right.
I'm so happy to have you there on the store.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate that our culinary students are gone.
Okay.
But what I'd love to hear from you is, tell me, from your perspective, what's the state of affairs in front of the house of service, customer service? Where are we compared to the 70s and where we're headed?
The front of the house, I can talk for me when I eat out what I like. I like knowledgeable, efficient, and friendly service. And I like that in a diner, and I like that at the best restaurant in the world. I like knowledge, and I like attitude. You know, if somebody misses, my wine glass is empty for 2 seconds, I don't care. You know, I mean, unless I'm at, like, you know, some place that it's gotten so much PR. But that I understand but the effort to me is more important than the protocol or the, you know, standard operating procedure of how we do it. It's more about the effort and the personality of the person serving me. I think most Americans are like that now. You know, they want to be greeted, they want to feel special, and they don't want to be ignored. And the person, and I read it on Yelp. When people feel like they're being ignored or their waiter's being curt, they feel bad. Danny Meyer was the best at it. His food was never at Union Square the best, but his service was the best, so he got the best reviews. His service carried him. Your service can carry you when your food can't. If you have bad service and good food, you're not going to be. It won't work as well. But a good meal with great service is a great meal. So I think there's a casualness to it, and I think if the minimum wage changes in New York and the non-tip thing happens, we'll get waiters will have to be full time. There's no more switching with Sally. I've never understood how the front of the house does that. Someone wants to work 3 days and 4 days because there's that part-time effort doesn't lead for serious workers. But now with minimum wage going up, they're not. That causes overtime for the other one to cover for them. So they're going to have. It's going to be here's your shift. Here's what you got to do. If you don't want to work 5 days a week, you shouldn't be in a restaurant business, or 6. But I think people are. I have a good crew. We have a very good crew down in Seabright, and we have good crews because waiters often follow money, and if they realize that we're going to be a busy restaurant and the check average is $80 or what have it, they're going to make some money. And they also want to have some pride. They want to work in a good restaurant. When a waiter works in a good restaurant, he doesn't have to deal with upset people, right? So waiters want to work where the least complaints will happen too. But I wish the students were here because I think I do have another project, and this is in Staten Island 2 years from now. It's near the new Ferris wheel, the big one, and by the ferry. And we're going to be operating a David Burke restaurant in a Westin hotel. But we're partnering with this College of Staten Island and creating a culinary program with them, which we'd love to do in New Jersey too, where some of the college students, they do the curriculum and the bookwork in the school, and we do the apprenticeship program. That way they come out, and I started my talk about cooks that can't cook. Guy got $50,000 in debt and he can't cook, right? And he's making $12 an hour, $14 an hour. Of course it sucks. Of course he's going to go out drinking all night, It's like he's living with 4 guys and trying to pay his bills. So we need to get cooks out of school that can cook to make $16, $17, $18 an hour, but with the rhythm of a drummer, know how to get on a line and say, all right, this guy's, so if he works for us for 2 years while he studies for 2 years, at least he's got, like I say, he didn't spend enough, at the CIA, you don't spend enough time cooking for real restaurants. You need to work in a restaurant. You can't look at a restaurant. You can't be told what you do in a restaurant. You need to work in a restaurant. And years ago, the CIA was hard to get in. You had to have a year or so experience to get in school. I don't think it works that way. So we want to get with College of Staten Island, and I think Paul Dillon was here today. Was he here earlier? I talked to him about getting something together with him in Jersey where the college can say we have an apprenticeship program set up with XYZ, Chef David Burke, et cetera, and if you want, you figure out a way it works. That way, my payroll's lower. I got students. My prices can be lower now, and we can do student night or whatever it is. But a kid gets out of school, and he's confident to walk into a kitchen in San Francisco and say, "I work for Burke, or I work for Palmer, or I work for this guy," and he gave me a letter C, which means I'm at $16 an hour. Something so simple, because that's what we do now. We train chefs. We pay them too. They don't pay us. And we have to retrain what they learned at school. Not to say the schools are bad, schools are good. But the schools, with that much debt, people start to look at it and say, like I offered both of my kids $100,000 not to go to college. They both said no, and they both said they would take it now. Right? Because they went to college. They didn't really, I would still want them to go to college, but I made them an offer. It cost me twice as much to send them. But they made the decision. They were 18. And I think if someone had that decision, like I could have took that $100,000 and sent, if someone wanted to be a chef, neither one of them did. I would take that money and send them to 10 restaurants around the country for 2 years or around the world and learn, because that's what they're going to be doing. So, well, I don't fight education. I just got done telling everybody how important it is to learn, but it doesn't mean you have to go to school to learn, especially in this industry. So, yeah. What was the last part? Yeah.
Hierarchy and what it looks like now in building the optimal
Well,
kitchen scene.
that's a great question. The hierarchy in the kitchen used to, the word executive chef is really for hotel chefs that have more than one outlet. And then it kind of got dropped into singular restaurants. So if you're an executive chef, you don't cook normally. You're directing other people. Then you have chef de cuisine. Cuisine meaning one kitchen, one outlet. I have a situation up in Saratoga, but it's 2 restaurants. There's a hotel with 2 restaurants, and a steakhouse, 3 restaurants. There's 1 executive chef. And the rest are going to be sous chefs. There's no other chef. Not a chef for this restaurant chef. It's too complicated because when you lose somebody and it's somebody tweets about it, oh, they lost another chef. Nobody cares if you lose a sous chef. Call them executive sous chef, same as chef de cuisine. Titles are important for the individual to put on a business card. I get that. But the title doesn't pay you any more money than it doesn't tell you how good you are. So I think it's about communication. Titles are important, but titles, for me, I'm a chef owner. I hire chefs for my restaurants and I have sous chefs. But when you have multiple units in one spot, it's not that important to me. The only important is the exit. And then it's on a resume that they were executive chef for you, but they're no good. But they can't be in certain restaurants. But, as a young person wanting a title, and because it makes you feel good and prideful, you should fight for it. Because I know that feeling. One of the reasons I didn't go to Oriole was because of that. And it's nit. I'm glad I didn't, but it was one of my requests. I asked Charlie. I said, "I'm going to be the chef, right?" He's like, "No, you're going to be the sous chef." I said, "I've been a sous chef for 5 years. I didn't want to be a sous chef anymore." So I know that feeling very well, but it's not worth losing a good opportunity over.
Front of the house. What do you look for in your successful venues all these years? How we're talking, at lunch, we're having a tough time. We're staffing our country clubs, staffing our restaurants.
I think you look for attitude. Mostly it's attitude. I'm not a very good interview person. I don't interview. I don't give good interviews. I don't have the patience for it, but I'm a good reader of people. I think you got to find somebody. There's books on this.
Yes,
how to interview someone. I never read one, but there is books about there's top 10 questions, where you want to be in 9 years, or this and that. What are your hobbies? I don't know. What do you want to do? Do you want to work hard? Do you want to learn? Do you take direction? I look at how people dress. I look at if someone comes in with a bone in their nose and a tattoo, If I would let them operate on my mother, and they look like I always say this to chefs too. Chef comes in with a black coat and a tattoo, unshaven, and a guy comes in with a white shirt and looks clean, and I think about 2 surgeons. Which one would I let operate on my mother? And it ain't the guy with the bone in his nose. So I do. Now, you can call that whatever you want, but appearance is that. Now, I hired a guy yesterday. Came in from Lake George to interview me in a car he drove all morning. Big guy, bigger than me. And we started talking. I liked him. He had good references. And I said, I need a guy in Saratoga. And he goes, I said, well, you got to cook for me. I said, usually I do a tasting. You got to cook me 8 dishes or something. And I need a guy in 2 weeks. So I said, how'd you get here? He said, I drove. I said, good. I said, make me lunch. I want 6 dishes. I said, yesterday. He goes, okay. He didn't hesitate. His shoes were tight. I could see it when I was talking to him. And he's got about 40 pounds on me. So he gets back there, and he cooks me 6 beautiful dishes in 2 hours. he used all my ingredients and this and that, sweating like a farm animal. His shirt was hanging out. He had one of those untuckets, I guess. And he burnt it all up on the grill. Sweat beating down. He's missing a tooth. And I'm like, I said, you're the guy. That's how I interview. I didn't ask him anything else. I said, send me your email and all this, and we'll make an offer tomorrow. He was like, I said, get some water and relax. He loved it. He'll never forget that. That's how you get things done. And the guys in the kitchen were like, holy shit. And Bull in the Chinese shop, great. It was the greatest fan. We shook hands and hugged, and I wiped myself off. Out the door. And that guy's going to be great. I know it. I hired another guy like that 25 years ago. Chris Shea, he works at the Wayfair. He worked the whole service in a suit. I needed a guy desperately. He's like, Chef, I said, when can you start? He goes, I'm available. I said, get online. He goes, now? I said, yeah. He goes, okay. No, no like I got to call my wife. No, he's like, on there. It ties, he's like, 6 hours later, his feet are killing him. Chefs don't wear dress. Chefs got feet like this. We wear clogs. And he still works for me. And the best, take a punch. And this guy's just like that. So I was very happy because those guys are hard to find. But by appearance, he had a jacket on. He looked nice. But he was down to earth, straightforward, said, I can do this. I said, what is the weak point you have? You got to have a weak point. He goes, my weak point is I don't know when to take a day off. I get that. I said, well, take a day off and go to the gym. I said, I can say that because they're going to. He goes, okay. I said, you're going to take one day off at least a week and go to the gym. And that was it. That was our conversation. And that's it. I think, hold on. I have one more little quote that I was at a dinner last night for law enforcement in New York City. And it was a guy who spoke, and he said this, which I wrote down. It says, you make a living by what you get, and you make a life by what you give. So I thought I would share that. Thank you all for coming. And if anyone wants the what if thing, I got a couple copies.